I think we can start the second part of the first day. We will start with the key thematic area 3, and I think we will start with a speech, a greeting from Sebastian Gemko, which is this Gemko is the Saxon State Minister for Science, Culture and Tourism, and then we will follow with the presentation of the key A3 results from Dr. Eva Stegman, again from the Saxon State Ministry for Science, Culture and Tourism. Video. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Saxon State Ministry for Science, Culture and Tourism is proud to be a partner of Regions4PerMed. Over the past 4.5 years, this CSA has undertaken numerous activities to advance the regional uptake of personalized medicine and health within Europe. We as a partner have successfully organized a conference and 2 workshops on personalizing health industry to support the stakeholder engagement process of Regions4PerMed. Looking back, why have we decided to engage in this European coordination and support action? To begin with, Saxony's innovation strategy is putting a focus on digitalization and individualized healthcare. We share the European vision of personalized medicine as stated by the European Council in 2015 to make, I may quote, the right therapeutic strategy for the right person available at the right time and to deliver timely and targeted prevention. For an aging population, this is a great promise into the future, and for us it means an important obligation. We think that especially regional engagement is highly important to make this vision come true. Many health systems in Europe are organized regionally, to some degree at least. Therefore, regions have the means to take action and to advance the field. Some remarkable regional practices will be presented during this event to demonstrate this. But regions also need to be engaged in developing the relevant policy and infrastructural framework for personalized medicine and health, so that regional needs are taken into account. Moreover, in many parts of Europe, the R&D landscape is organized regionally, with the regions defining the institutional landscape and providing significant funding. Saxony, for instance, has provided more than €6.5 million for the participation in ERA-PerMed transnational research and innovation projects. Finally, the regional perspective allows short communication paths, which leads to personal interaction and hopefully to cluster-like cooperation. Thus, regional concepts to support innovation in the field of personalized medicine and health can provide a stimulus that radiates far beyond the respective region. In Saxony, we already have a number of noteworthy examples for this deep cooperation, such as the federally funded Cell and Gene Therapy Cluster Saxocell, the Else Kröner-Fresenius Center for Digital Health, the Industry Cluster BioSaxony, which is operating the Medical Forge Leipzig, and most recently, the Semico cluster that has been awarded federal funding to develop secure medical microsystems and communications by integrating artificial intelligence into the development concepts of medical devices. We certainly hope that the topics raised by Regions4PerMed and the recommendations that resulted from this action will guide further regional engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, summarizing our experience during the CSA Regions4PerMed, I can say that we have learned a lot from our regional partners. Our stakeholders have found new opportunities for cooperation in Europe, and for us, the Saxon government. It resulted in the participation in the future European Partnership on Personalized Medicine. That's why I would like to say thank you, and I wish you a fruitful discussion and successful networking. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And now Eva will present the outcomes of the key thematic area 3, personalizing health industry.
Where's this?
The pointer, yes.
The clicker, let me see how it works. Where do I have to press?
This is to go further, right? And this is to go back.
Right, thank you. Yes, so hello and a warm welcome. My name is Eva Maria Stegemann, as Gianni already said, and I'm representing the Saxon State Ministry for Science, Culture and Tourism on the topic of personalizing health industry, our KA3 in Regions4PerMed. And before I really start my topic, I would like to briefly give you an introduction to Saxony. So Saxony is a German federal state that's located in the middle of the north and south axis and all the way to the east in Germany. Our capital is Dresden. We have 4 million inhabitants, roughly. 26% are above the age of 65, and this is a rising part of the population. The gross domestic product in 2020 was 127 billion, and 14 billion gross value added in the same year. So that shows the health sector is a significant part also of the Saxon economic activity, and I think it's actually true for most economic activities. The German health system is, of course, governed federally, but it's also implemented regionally, and I think that's important. In Germany, we follow also a principle of subsidiarity. That means the German system is very complex. We have many partners that negotiate on different levels with each other. When it's about changes in the system, it makes the system, in a way, more stable, in a way sometimes also a bit slow in adoption. So we have a well-developed medical infrastructure. I provided some numbers here below. And we have 2 university hospitals in Saxony, actually 2.5 if we also count Chemnitz, which is also involved in educating, training future medical doctors. And I'm very proud to say Saxony has a very strong research base. All the German research societies are very well represented. And we have state-funded, of course, state-funded research institutes on top and private research institutes. And this is all founded really by a very well-developed higher education system. And what I'm showing you with this graphic is really that we have quite a significant share of institutions that have an engagement in personalized medicine. All of these are circled in red. And this is, of course, also in alignment with the fact that individualized healthcare is part of the Saxon Innovation Strategy, as was already said. And we have also participated in ERA-PerMed, or are still partner in ERA-PerMed, and participated in all joint transnational calls. So moving from this to our topic, the guiding question of our key area was, what are the implications of personalized medicine and health for health industry and health industry development? And what does it mean from a regional perspective? So that's a broad question. And, oh, it's not the last version. I'm sorry. Okay, so actually I prepared a version that was a little bit slimmed down, okay, because this is a very crowded slide. So when we started developing the rationale for our topic, it was first very important to understand what is health industry about. And to this end, this graphic really presents some of an analysis grid for this health industry. So in the middle, you see this purple square type of figure, which says health industry. And these are pharmaceutical and diagnostic companies, also IT and tech and data companies, actually to an ever larger degree. And these are large companies and also small and medium enterprises and startup companies. So this is the essence of health industry. But how is an industry defined? If you look at the literature, industry is defined by having providers of, to some degree, interchangeable products or services that serve a certain market. And the attractiveness of an industry is very much influenced by the attractiveness of a market. The health market is a very huge market. It's $12 trillion annually right now, roughly speaking, worldwide, globally. That's a large number, I think. A market is but not only defined by the size of the market, but also by the so-called competitive forces that shape a market. And they are very much influenced by the amount of competition and how competition is working. And of course, an attractive and large industry will attract new entries. For instance, as I said, increasingly data companies. But market entry is also not always simple in an industry. There are barriers to entry. So this means that there's a certain dynamic that is characteristic and different for each industry. And to have a deeper look at this, and I think that's important when you think about personalization in the health industry, I will walk you through the value chain of health industry, which is the upper part of the graphic. So if you bring a new product, or if you want to develop a new product for this very attractive health market, you have, of course, to provide a solution to something there's a need for, and the need is defined by medical need in health industry. And even though we have had great advances in healthcare over the past 150 years, and our life expectancy is much longer, there's still much unmet medical need out there. Diseases that cannot be cured, or where the cures for the disease have side effects that are very, very hard to really handle for the patient. So to allow for an innovation, then you need to have some discovery that leads to a potential innovation. So you have a new finding, and this finding can be the basis for an innovation. This discovery is done in basic science, or based on basic science, and also on preclinical research. A lot of this is done in research institutes and universities. Some is also done by industry, and there are strong ties between research institutes and universities and also industry. So if you want to develop an innovation for the health market further, you need to spend quite a significant amount of effort. Why is that? Because health products are highly regulated. So to have a product enter the market, you need to do a safety assessment, you need to study toxicity of a new drug, for instance, and you need to prove that a medication is working and effective. So you need to do clinical studies. This is a very complex effort, a very complex logistic effort, and it's a very it's an effort that has to be very well documented to obtain approval. You have two very important steps here. Before development usually takes place and industry engages in a development process, industry has to be sure that they can have a product for which they have some exclusivity. For this, they have to have intellectual property rights, patent protection. Yeah? Then when you come to approval, you have to have all the documentation and clinical studies in place. That's very costly, several €100 million very often. And the approval process itself is also very complex and takes quite an amount of time. And it's also regulated differently in different parts of the world. So then you have a product that you can market, potentially, but now the market has its peculiarities that are different from most other markets, because the people, the customers, you would say, in other markets that use the products, the patients in our case, they are not the ones who decide to buy the product, but it's other people that decide that a product is used. It's the providers, it's the people in the healthcare system, it's mostly doctors. And the question is, who pays? Again, this is a market that's not defined by the customer, but who pays? It's usually the so-called payers here in this graphic. It's the health insurances, and in some countries it's the governments that negotiate with the industry the prices for the products. So you see, it's a very complex system, and I think it's important for us to keep this in mind when we talk about industry, because if we think about the quadruple helix that was just mentioned, the industry is one part of this, but it's not functioning the same way as in other industries and other markets. It's very highly regulated, and that's why the institutional environment, those what I call second-line stakeholders here in this graphic, are very important. So like regulatory authorities, but also health technology assessment agencies, medical associations that were just discussed before, and patient organizations. It's a very complex system. So moving from the general health system to personalization. So what does personalization mean for the health market? Well, if you look at this graphic, you see we have changes. The diagnostics have become much more comprehensive. We have much more extensive diagnostics different levels of diagnostics are possible or are becoming increasingly possible. It's not about blood values anymore, but it's also about genomics, it's about proteomics, it's levels that we never had before available. We are talking about devices, and we have devices today that are so much more powerful than anything we had in the past. And some of these devices we already use voluntarily, people that wear a smart watch that monitors some of their vital functions, constantly are under monitoring already. And these devices provide really much more monitoring than was possible before, but also real life data, continuous data. So we really have a data topic here. It's much more data, so much more data than we could ever imagine before. And it does need much more data integration, not only within the individual fields, but also to bring data from different areas together. This will lead, and does already lead, to increasing patient stratification, which is good because we will have a more fine-grained understanding of our patients. It will also require more patient engagement because the patient is looked at from even more different angles than ever before. We will have different drugs. We will have better tailored and potentially more individualized drugs. We are just in a process to that end. So what does it mean for industry? We will have more and smaller patient populations. We will have smaller market sizes for industry. The pharmaceutical industry traditionally is always hunting for the next big blockbuster. They want to actually treat indications that have a large market, and you can make billions of dollars annually with one product. That might change. We will have more fragmented markets. We will have a higher medical benefit potentially for the products, and also a higher value maybe of individual products. It's just the question, is this sustainable? And it's important to think about that. The therapeutic universe becomes much more complex, and this is a challenge for the patient and the doctors. The development complexity of products increases, and the risks in this development process may be perceived as greater by the investors involved. So this is partially offset by patient population stratification because it can potentially increase the success rate of product development. But we have to understand we are still in a process of moving there. So there's more need for physician and patient education and guidance. I think that's an overall view. What does personalization mean for health industry? So with this analysis in mind, we organized our activities in this KA3, and we did a conference that actually addressed most of the value chain. So we had representations of industry, we had representations of the research world, we had patient representation, we had also the medical societies presenting, and we had also an industry analysis presented, so we could get a very complete picture. And with this picture that also confirmed some of our assumptions and gave us more deep understanding, we thought about where can regions come into this, because some things that we just addressed are not easily addressed by regions. The question is, where can regions make a difference? And our understanding was, and I think this was already also addressed in some of the talks before, that regions can really shape their R&D ecosystem, and regions can also influence their so-called translational ecosystem. So we are mostly talking about the early part of the value chain. There's also, in the provision, room for regions. We have not so much looked into that because it's all at the end of the process. And we have summarized all these activities in our report. It's available on the website. I think it's a very nice report, actually. So I encourage you to have a look at that. And after we did these activities in the virtual world, fortunately, we could also offer an in situ visit to our CSA and had a look at Saxon institutions in the field of personalized medicine and health last September. We used that occasion for a very nice stakeholder dialogue that was really insightful again, because it filled what we discussed before really with life. So now, I'm going to the results. So to the results of the workshops, and I'm just highlighting some of the barriers for personalized medicine again. So as I said, new knowledge generation is highly data dependent. Biobanking and patient data access is really challenging for researchers. Data silos are a big issue. Sometimes it's just not possible to access data. Of course, also due to legal issues, but also it's practical issues, interoperability. So this is something that we need to tackle, and Claude and Paola really, I think you gave some very valuable hints for that. So then for the development process, which is much more complex. So the funding especially for SME, for development projects may be particularly difficult, as said. So funding for SME, especially for startups, is a challenge of its own in the health sector. But we also have more particular difficulties. For instance, if you want to co-develop a diagnostic that is specific for a therapeutic, so-called companion diagnostic, which is called CDX here, the timelines are not really in harmony, and this means if there's two partners involved in this development process, one of them maybe has a risk of having high cost, and then it takes quite a while until they have a potential reward on that. IP protection can be problematic. This is also something we learned, and there's no easy solution for that, especially when artificial intelligence comes into play or databases. And regulation. Also, when we discuss regulation and we say, well, it's good to have a harmonized regulation, but then the execution of regulation is done on the regional or national or local level, wherever, we have to be aware that then regulation may be interpreted somewhat differently. So this will lead to increased fragmentation also. So there's a benefit in that approach, but there's also a risk in that approach. And that became very clear in our stakeholder dialogues. So approval processes are very complex, and in Europe at least, they are not in a synchronized pathway when you talk about companion diagnostics and personalized therapeutics. Also, approval processes are not really laid out for more personalized products, especially if you come to small patient populations. It can be very difficult. And there are really sometimes really the concepts for personalized medicine, or they're actually not fully developed, and HTAs are not really aware, Health Technology Assessment Agency. So then reimbursement. There was a nice CSA on that, Regions4PerMed, that had their final presentation about this time last year. So they also discussed ways how to reimburse personalized medicine. So there are ideas for that. But currently, one issue for personalization is that diagnostics reimbursement is really not supportive for personalization. And this really means that the market development is slow. And it's also, again, a big issue in Europe is that reimbursement decisions are very fragmented because we have so many different payers in the process. And why is this a problem? Well, it's especially a problem if a startup or SME is developing a product, because these companies don't have the expertise of handling so many different authorities and payers. For them, it's a real challenge. It's a little bit different for big pharmaceutical companies that have the resources and the administrations to handle these processes. But innovation very frequently comes from the small companies that are very close to the research base. So this is very important, I think, to keep in mind. Provision in many areas is therefore slow. Patient access is frequently limited. The market development is slow due to these reasons, but also because physician education is lacking, or because maybe a new product is just not yet in a guideline. So if it's not in a guideline, how shall the general practitioner, for instance, know about it? So this is just the summary slide for all those points. And now the question is, how can regions become more supportive for personalized medicine research? These are more general recommendations, and it's not conclusive. In the report, there's some more ideas. But I think one aspect that regions should or could already tackle is that regional programs especially also research funding, should require the handling of health data, at least according to FAIR standards, of course, but also really see that data management is along international standards where standards are already defined. For instance, for biobanking, there's a well-developed European infrastructure, and I think all the funding within regions should make sure that the handling of those biobanks is aligned with those standards. And the same is true for registries. It's very important if you develop registries to have them according to standards. And but it's important to keep in mind that if you take such an approach, it might also make more effort for the scientists, and maybe funding programs have really to have room for that. Yeah, that is, I think, very, very important to keep in mind. The benefit of this will be better data quality, a better access to high quality data material, actually higher quality research and scientific excellence, I think, will be promoted. And also, that's a bit speculative, but I think there will be an increased visibility in scientific communities due to that. And I mean, we have had scientists present their approaches, and we know normally people that are working in science, they're very dedicated and they're very much intrinsically motivated to move a topic along. But it's very important really for them to understand that they have to meet certain standards when they generate data to make it more fruitful for the future. Regions can support the development of clusters of competence, and I think we discussed this before, we heard this before. And those clusters of competence could be supportive for personalized medicine research and implementation, and could have a layout in that direction. For that, of course, you need to have a thorough analysis of the regional strengths and weaknesses, as was discussed and suggested also by Sapphire. The benefit of that, and of programs that in Germany we have a federal program that supports the cluster development, is that you really create a more critical mass in research, and that you promote scientific excellence in a certain field, that you have, by putting more resources in one area, also more trained staff in that area. You have people that are well educated, so that human resources are also accessible and retainable for small and medium enterprises that work in a region, because also to attract staff from attract people from outside, it's more attractive to work in a region where there's more potential job opportunities. If you create clusters of competence, you have a lighthouse effect, potentially. You just create more international visibility and reputation, and you can attract more investment by that. Then another aspect, if you, which would be further down the value chain, you can see it by the color, is that you have can support pilot projects to support accessibility and provision. We have had a project, the Onkolotse in Saxony, that was initially a pilot project for supporting cancer care. And this really has also a very positive effect within a region. You have more and better trained providers potentially, and you can have better patient care in pilot projects. However, pilot projects have one intrinsic problem. They come to an end, and the question is how you can move this further so that you don't create too many dead ends with regional funding, especially. So one particular question I think that's important in the context of personalizing health industry is how can regions support SME in personalized medicine? I did not specifically yes, actually, I mentioned it. SME, this was really a finding. SME, I think, need report and support in most areas in relation to the value chain. And SME are very important for innovation in the healthcare system. So many SME, many startups in the healthcare system come out of academia, so they bring the novel knowledge into this health system. And frequently these companies, when they are grown to a certain size, are being bought by large industries. So we have something like how do you say, like a life cycle, how innovation also enters the big companies, because big companies usually are not very innovative on their own due to their structures. Yeah, so regions can be very supportive for the discovery phase. And regional programs in support of personalized medicine should have the SME, especially the SME integration in mind. SMEs should be encouraged to take part in such programs, and also in the context of ERA-PerMed, this I think was very beneficial, where SME could be co-funded. And I think that's important also for the partnership to keep in mind that it's good in the research projects to integrate SMEs. Then also I think regions should think about, especially if they want to support personalized medicine, to think about maybe providing some funding for that, for the company funding, because as I said before, funding and financing startups in the field of healthcare is a very peculiar business. It runs in cycles, but it's also really difficult. The financing ecosystem, I can say this for Germany, but actually for Europe, is just a bit hesitant to support these type of companies, high-risk companies. And the financing that's available is much more limited than, for instance, in the United States. So there's always, the situation that we have excellent science, but it's not translating well, and that's one of the reasons, because our financing ecosystem just doesn't support the easy transfer from academia to the business world. So some additional funding to top up, for instance, venture capital would be a nice idea, because it would maybe attract more private money. Another approach I think that is very attractive for Europe is that to have regional and interregionally connected knowledge clusters and incubator structures for SMEs with a personalized medicine focus. And our best practice that's been awarded that we'll present tomorrow is doing that for the field of companion diagnostics. And I think really, it was also mentioned by the Sapphire project, that one should collaborate interregionally. I think we should also take into account cluster structures that already exist in support of health industry and biotech industry. I think Europe is full of biotech and life sciences clusters that support industry and have a good industry engagement in healthcare. So this could be used on a European level for personalized medicine. And one could really support the collaboration for the benefit, because the market is so complex and fragmented. I think everyone would profit from a good collaboration. So in the last item here on this slide is that SMEs should also be really encouraged to participate in pilot projects, and funding should be also available to have pilot projects that are not only maybe hospital-driven or provider-driven, but that maybe integrate SMEs. So these are some ideas that we discussed. There's more in our report, and I'm providing here the logos of the best practices that we have depicted in the best practice booklet. I think they're very, very interesting to have a look at. I must say I would like to close here with a big thank you to everyone who supported this project, to the people that shared their best practices, that presented in our conference and workshop, and that contributed to the discussions. It was a great pleasure for me to work on this topic. It's actually a topic that's right after my heart. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Eva, for these really nice presentations. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience. Otherwise, I would suggest that we keep the discussion for the cocktail, because we are a bit...
Yeah, I know. I talked a little bit longer.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting. So I think now it's time for our Galician partners who have tackled and will present the outcomes of the key thematic area 4, innovation flow in healthcare. And I think the topic will be introduced by the Galician Regional Minister of Health, Julio Garcia Comesaña. And then José María Romero Fidalgo will drive us within the key thematic area 4. There.
Miembros de las instituciones europeas, autoridades regionales, socios del proyecto, asociaciones de pacientes, ponentes y demás entidades. Es para mí un placer intervenir en esta conferencia final en el marco del proyecto Regions4PerMed. En primer lugar, me gustaría agradecer a Toscana Life Science y a la Agencia Gallega de Conocimiento en Salud la organización de este evento, así como al resto de socios por su colaboración. También quiero agradecer la oportunidad que nos ha dado la Unión Europea y el programa Horizonte 2020 de ejecutar este proyecto y crear esta red de intercambio de conocimiento con otras regiones europeas para potenciar la medicina personalizada. Desde el Servicio Gallego de Salud queremos un sistema abierto a la nueva ciencia, a los avances del saber y a la tecnología, y también a la innovación. De esta forma buscamos impulsar la medicina personalizada, tanto en la prevención como en la promoción de la salud y en los diagnósticos y tratamientos. Y es por ello que nos complace haber participado en este proyecto. El Servicio Gallego de Salud inició hace ya 2 décadas su camino hacia la incorporación de la medicina personalizada en sus procesos de atención a través de multitud de iniciativas de distinto tipo. En el ámbito de los sistemas de información ha sido referente dentro de España en la puesta en marcha de una historia clínica electrónica y un sistema de receta electrónica unidos y perfectamente integrados, desarrollados a través de la contratación pública de innovación, que son la base para el perfecto conocimiento de los determinantes personales de cada paciente. En el ámbito de la medicina molecular, Galicia cuenta desde 1998 con la Fundación Pública Gallega de Medicina Genómica, referente a nivel europeo en su campo, que garantiza el acceso en condiciones de equidad y calidad a las pruebas genómicas que sean requeridas para el diagnóstico y tratamiento de múltiples dolencias, especialmente el diagnóstico prenatal, farmacogenética, enfermedades raras y el cáncer de línea germinal. La Fundación es uno de los 5 centros de referencia del recién lanzado programa IMPACT, coordinado para toda España por su director, el doctor Ángel Carracedo. Además, este programa se coordinará con iniciativas internacionales como el proyecto europeo Más 1 millón de genomas, el Consorcio Internacional de Investigación de Enfermedades Raras y el Consorcio Internacional de Genoma del Cáncer. Desde el Servicio Gallego de Salud nos planteamos el reto de desplegar durante este año una estrategia de medicina personalizada y terapias celulares que permitirá incorporar los programas de prevención, diagnóstico y tratamiento adecuados al perfil de cada uno de nuestros pacientes, contemplando los cambios organizativos necesarios para abordarlos. Gracias a las sólidas bases de nuestra trayectoria previa, nos encaminamos al desarrollo de una red distribuida de medicina personalizada, actuando bajo los mismos parámetros de excelencia en el cumplimiento de estándares de calidad que se vaya adecuando la disponibilidad de plataformas tecnológicas de forma progresiva a la demanda creciente. Al mismo tiempo, pretendemos el desarrollo de proyectos piloto concretos sometidos a la evaluación de resultados como forma práctica de hacer llegar al paciente los resultados reales de esta estrategia. Somos conscientes de que es necesario seguir avanzando e incorporar los nuevos avances que se encuentran en la frontera de la ciencia. Por ello, en el ámbito translacional, se establecerán mecanismos de introducción temprana de nuevas tecnologías, fomentando relaciones de intercambio de conocimiento para tener al alcance otras experiencias de ámbito europeo y global. En este sentido, las terapias avanzadas son un claro ejemplo en el que Galicia actúa con un impulso decidido y liderado desde el Gobierno de la Comunidad Autónoma. Desde el año 2020 se han dado todos los pasos necesarios para la puesta en marcha de un centro de producción de terapias celulares avanzadas para el tratamiento personalizado del cáncer, cuyo primer proyecto es la fabricación de un nuevo fármaco CAR-T en el marco de un ensayo clínico copromovido con el Hospital Clínic de Barcelona, primer centro europeo que ha obtenido la autorización de uso de su propio CAR-T por todas las autoridades reguladoras. Todas estas realidades asistenciales son fruto del caldo de cultivo que supone la intensa actividad de nuestros 3 institutos de investigación biomédica, las múltiples iniciativas en el ámbito de investigación, como ejemplo la unidad mixta Roche-Chus, una iniciativa de la empresa Roche Pharma Sociedad Anónima y el Grupo de Investigación de Oncología Médica Translacional del Complejo Hospitalario de Santiago de Compostela, orientado al cáncer de mama y próstata a través de la oncología de precisión, centrándose en desarrollos de biopsia líquida y nanooncología. Sin olvidarnos de la innovación, donde el Servicio Gallego de Salud cuenta con una trayectoria líder en la compra pública e innovación, donde la medicina de precisión estuvo presente en los grandes planes de innovación como Código 100, en proyectos en marcha como Innova Microlab, centrado en microbiómica, y en futuros planes de innovación donde el eje será la medicina 5P. No quiero acabar esta intervención sin valorar el gran esfuerzo y dedicación de todos los integrantes del Servicio Gallego de Salud. Todas estas buenas prácticas, explicadas en los eventos desarrollados dentro del marco del proyecto Regions4PerMed, apoyadas en su gran esfuerzo y resiliencia, han ayudado sin duda al objetivo de posicionar a Galicia como una región líder en cuanto a implementación de la medicina personalizada en los futuros años. También quiero subrayar las prácticas que nos han mostrado los socios, los que nos han permitido conocer experiencias en distintas regiones y países para reafirmar la importancia de la medicina personalizada como un nuevo avance de cara al futuro. Dicho esto, me gustaría terminar agradeciendo a todos los ponentes su disponibilidad para participar en estas conferencias y a todos los asistentes darle, por supuesto, las gracias por su participación. Concluyo esta intervención felicitando el trabajo de todos los que han contribuido a la realización de este encuentro con su esfuerzo y dedicación. Muchas gracias.
Wonderful. So, José, it's your turn. So again, José María Romero Fidalgo from the Galician Health Knowledge Agency will present the results of the key thematic area 4 on innovation flow in healthcare.
Thank you very much, Gianni. I think I should. Yeah, thank you very much, Gianni. Well, first of all, I would like to introduce Galicia. Well, our Galician Health Minister, Julio García Comesaña, he presents the work that we are doing right now in Galicia and in the past few years. And well, who is ASIS? ASIS is a public agency that is attached to the Galician Health Service. The Galician Health Service is part of, as you know, that in Spain, as is different system and in other countries, because we have decentralized all the policies related with education and health. So in the government of Galicia, we have the Galician Health Ministry and Sergas, that it's the public health care provider. We are part of the Regions4PerMed project with leading the work package 4, the key thematic area 4, that it's called Innovation Flow in the Healthcare. Well, the objective of this thematic area was to tackle the main barriers that are holding back the adoption at the regional level, of course, of health innovation for personalized medicine, trying to range in financial tools to invest research and innovation, regional infrastructures for development, and clinical validation on new personalized medicine solutions and approach. The way of how to address this topic, it was similar to the rest of the thematic areas, with a conference and with a short workshop. Unfortunately, in our case, we were in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we had to do it both the conference and the workshop online. It's not the same, but anyway, we could manage, and we had some results. The conference, that it was on July 2021, online, we had 65 registered attendees. We had participants from 16 countries, all European countries. Well, because it was online, the number of viewers, it was approximately around 400 viewers that we had connected in some of the parts of the workshop, of the conference, and streaming, and 11 speakers. The second work that we had, or the second event that we had in our thematic area, it was the workshop, where we had 60 registered attendees, similar numbers of viewers and speakers, with 11 speakers, and as the rest of the workshops of the different thematic areas, we tried to do an in situ visit that we had also to do it online, and in this case it was to the University Hospital of Orense, where we had the first living lab that I will talk later on. Well, the experts who participated, well, as you know, this project, it was not only to talk about what we are doing in our regions. We wanted to learn from different and to know different perspectives from all Europe, not only for the regions involved in the project. And we had a variety of speakers from all parts of Europe. The conference, it was divided into 3 sessions. The first session, it was focusing on research and innovation models to boost innovation. We had experts from Elixir, also from Gemelit Generator, also from the European Network of Living Labs, of the NOL. The second session, it was about financial instruments to support innovation, where we had the pleasure to have the president, now she's the president of the Department of Innovation of the IT Health in Europe. In the past it was only on the Spanish note of IT Health Spain. And we had people from the European Commission. It was Orestes from Policy Affairs Officer from the DG Connect in e-health. The third session that it was during the second day of the conference, it was to talk about the tool of innovation procurement. And we had different speakers from Aquas, that is and the Agency for Health Quality and Assessment in Catalonia in Spain. We had Ana Lucia from Covers, that it's based on the Netherlands, and that they have services related with innovation procurement, legal services. And two experts from the Galician Health Service, Javier del Quiles del Rio, that he's also today here, and that he was part of the jury members of the awards that we will have tomorrow, and Alicia Piñeiro, that she is also managing and dealing with trying to write the Galician strategy of personalized medicine. The workshop had similar structure, divided also into 3 sessions. With different perspectives, trying to analyze and to deepen in knowledge of the previous topics that we addressed during the conference. Well, here you have the speakers. And the third session, it was a little different because, well, we tried to also to address the topic of smart and future hospitals with the speakers that you can see here. And as I mentioned before, we finalized the workshop with a virtual in-situ visit to the hospital of Orense. Well, the themes and results in this case of the conference. Well, the session 1, where we try to focus on research and innovation models to boost innovation, well, we addressed the role of the regions on the use of genomic data in personalized medicine among jurisdictions across Europe, the management and application of real-world data to support hospital research centers, and also we introduced to the participants the European network of living labs. Some of the take-home messages that we could learn thanks to the experts that present on the conference. It was well, I know that we are running out of time, so I will only take one each session. Well, one of these take-home messages, it was the citizens' trust, that we saw that it's one of the key elements of the genomic data, since they are the data owners. Another take-home message from this first session, it was the 5 V's of big data, that the regions need to invest to ensure the enhancement of 5 V's of big data: the velocity, the value, the veracity, the variety, and also the volume, that they are well known. And we could learn also about DNO, and also we had some examples as the Vitalize project, through research communities that they obtain access to existing health and well-being living labs infrastructures. The second session, it was about financial instruments to support innovation. We had a presentation of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, IT Health, and the European Commission commitment, approaches and funding opportunities for innovation procurement in healthcare through the new Horizon Europe program. Well, we could learn about the IT Health, that it acts as an accelerator and enhances education and innovation. They have many innovation programs that they are also focused on personalized medicine, that I think is a very interesting opportunity, especially for actors such as us, that we can apply for some of the calls that they have already open. And well, Orestes, in this case, the project officer from the European Commission, also show us the opportunities, the funding opportunities related with Horizon Europe Cluster 1, that is related with health and health innovation procurement. The last session, it was about innovative procurement tools. We could learn about the basics of PPI and the outcomes and benefits of the PPI applications in the health systems, some of the main barriers to overcome, also approaches and tools provided by the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement, and also our experience, especially because in 2021 we were awarded as the first in the first awards of the European Innovation Council with our strategy of innovation procurement. Well, some of the take-home messages, it was this, the main barriers to overcome with PPI and PCP-based projects, where it's very important to apply a step-by-step wise methodology for a strategic of use of procurement, and also to trying to strengthen the relations with and engagement within the market. And then some of the take-home messages, in this case from the Galician Health Services, related with our experience, related with procurement of ICT solutions, and also of biotech and pharma solutions. And then the workshop, well, it was divided into 3 policy interventions areas. In the first area, we could explain to the audience the centralized manufacturing center for cellular immunotherapy of Galicia that our Galician Health Ministry mentioned during his presentation. We could also learn the experience from nagging scheme of Navarra, and also the Fraunhofer Society and the Fraunhofer IC. In the second intervention, area 2, we were addressing again the topic and deepening knowledge of innovation procurement tools. In this case, the clinical implementation of an e-health-based pharmacologist and personalized prescription system in an European regional health service, and also the modernization of healthcare through PCP in the Lombardy region. And the last topic addressed was smart and future hospitals, with the action of the European regional health authorities on healthy aging, silver economy, and digital innovation. Well, we had the virtual in-situ visit to the Hospital of Orense. Well, it's the first living lab of the Galician network of health living labs. We aim to convert the Galician hospitals in a way of testing innovative solutions in order to try to improve business opportunities, develop user and driven innovations. In these living labs, we combined different stakeholders to test and develop these products. Of course, we are with health professionals, with patients, and in a safety environment. And what we aim to is to allow the end users, the participants, the caregivers, and also the healthcare professionals to participate actively in the product development and in the testing processes. Well, the outcomes and recommendations. Well, these were the 3 main outcomes of our thematic area. Of course, the report, the key area for a report, a collection, a booklet of our 8 good practices that we could identify during the conference and the workshop, and a paper about innovation procurement that is not published yet, and we hope that in the following months we will have it published. These were the 8 best practices that we have collected in our report. Some of them they were mentioned before. I will not deep on it. And well, And of course, because it was online, we had the opportunity at least to record both the conference and the workshop. So it's available, and you can check it and watch it again. And just to finalize my presentation, well, a few final recommendations that we could address during this intensive thematic area. It was about the interregional cooperation to create a network for exchanging interoperable and accessing human data. We know that there are at European level some initiatives about it. The regional cooperation for the construction of research and clinical centers to respond to the demand of new projects or technologies. Also, a recommendation to our policymakers to focus on overcoming innovation barriers, such as the duration of the procurement procedure or some administrative workload that we are all familiar with it, and incentivize the development of accessible tools to all personalized medicine community to include innovation strategies, such as PPI or innovation partnerships in personalized medicine. And also the construction of real-life settings for testing new methodologies, techniques, prototypes, and services, as what we are trying to develop in Galicia with LabSau, the health network of health living labs. And that's all. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the consulting.
Thank you very much, Jose. I have a couple of questions. The first one is more than a question, is an update, because I know that Galicia has also been one of the first regions, maybe the only region, to have a complete program of PPI on personalized medicine. Mm-hmm. What's the state of art? I mean, if you can, because you have presented this, I think, during one of either the conference or the workshop. So I was just wondering if there is an update, if there is a prosecution, and which are the main results that you have achieved?
Well, what we are trying to develop is a strategy of personalized medicine, where of course innovation procurement it's also part of this strategy. We had few plans developed in the past. One of the recent plans, it was Código 100, Code 100 that I mentioned during the presentation, where we tried, of course, to focus on the development of personalized ICT solutions, and also try to explore the possibility through the innovation procurement tools to try to develop some initiatives related with advanced therapies. It's an initial work. It's true that this mechanism to try to develop this type of initiatives is not easy. It's true that we have a big experience related with IT solutions, of course, personalized solutions related with health, but we are trying to push this topic and to try in future innovation procurement plans to continue working on it.
Okay, and the second one is, are you also involved in innovation program with the pre-commercial procurement on health research, innovation, and maybe personalized medicine?
Yeah, well, we were familiar with these three types of innovation procurement. That it's the ICT procurement, also the innovation partnership tool, and also, of course, some PCPs. It's true that, and there are many, especially at the European level, there are many initiatives related with PCP. We had one initiative in the past that it was called the Empathics Project, that it was also funded by Horizon Europe, where we tried to develop some solutions related, especially focuses on the aging population. As the Galician Health Ministry mentioned, well, one of our main focus related with health is to focus on the aging population, because, well, we are one of the regions with the highest rate of people over 65. So it's important for us to try to focus on the personalized medicines, also thinking on solutions, to try to deploy solutions related with telemedicine, telecare, and so on. And in this case, thanks to one of the European, to the solution to one of these plans of innovation procurement, we could develop one of our solutions that is called Telea, that is our platform, health platform that we have from the Galician Health Service, that is called Telea, that is a platform to connect and to relate it with our telemedicine, to connect patients from home and also to try to monitor them on daily basis. We continue working on it. I know that at European level, especially with PCPs, is very promoted by the European Commission, especially in some Horizon Europe programs. But we want to also to try to use some of the other tools besides the pre-commercial that they are also now launching and promoting.
Thanks a lot. I don't know if there's any questions from the audience. Otherwise, thanks a lot. I really think that the expertise you have achieved with with innovation procurement should be more disseminated, because I think many regions have great opportunities also because you can use structural funds to implement these kind of activities, and having in mind and having the possibility to see some of successful models that have been proven to work would really boost the uptake of these kind of tools. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.